video today, and the first bit of your embroidery is going to cover the lettering. So I have chosen DMC 918 for my lettering, and this is the 6-strand embroidery floss. So most embroidery floss comes in 6 strands, and you can vary this and split it to the thickness required. I split mine to different thicknesses depending on what element it is that I'm embroidering and the thickness I want to go for. For this lettering, I'm probably going to go for about a 3-strand thickness. I tend to go for around 3 to 4 strands for my lettering. So you're just going to split your embroidery floss into 3 strands. The easiest way to do that is just to use your nails, split it into 3, and then just slowly unravel that into 3 strands. Okay, so once you've got your 3 strands of embroidery floss, you're going to thread your needle. So the easiest way to thread your needle is to just wet the end of your embroidery floss, just lick it slightly, and smooth it out. Then you want to hold the embroidery floss between your finger and thumb, really close to the edge, and squeeze it together. And then you can just slide your needle over the top of that, and that will thread your needle. You're going to just thread it through and leave a piece dangling here. The other end of your thread, you're going to tie a knot in it. There's a few ways you can do it, and you can leave a piece hanging and sort of weave it into your work. But the easiest way, especially for beginners, tends to just be to tie a knot. Okay? So once you've got a knot like that, we're going to start on the lettering. And my favourite stitch for lettering is whipped back stitch. So I'm going to talk you through how to do whipped back stitch. So you're going to start at the beginning of your letter. So you're going to find your needle to the start here, and you're going to come up from the back. Pull through until the knot reaches your fabric. And we start this stitch by doing a simple back stitch. So we're going to come up through the back of the fabric and go back down next to it there and pull the thread through. You're then going to come back up through the fabric a little bit further away from where you went down, say about 5 millimeters or so. So you want to come back up here, and then you're going to go back down to the end of the last stitch. You will find that you get knots in your fabric. Just try and calmly, gently pull them out. Again, so you're going to come back up about 4 or 5 millimeters away from where you just went from your last stitch, and back up, pull the thread through, and back down to the end of the last stitch. And you want to make sure that all your stitches are touching. And this is your back stitch. You should have no gaps between the stitches. If you want to make it a little bit quicker, once you go down into the back of your fabric, you can start to put the needle back up for the next stitch before you've pulled it all the way through, and pull it like this. This will just speed up your work, but don't worry if you find that difficult and you just want to go all the way through and back up. You're going to continue this until your whole word is completed in back stitch. Okay, so you might find that you start to come towards the end of your thread before you finished your layering. So if this is the case, you want to just go until you've got about 2 inches of thread left. You can make it less, but if you're a beginner, it's just easier to leave a little bit more. So when I've got around this much left, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go to the back of my work and thread my needle under one of the other stitches close by, like this. I'm then going to go back under that same stitch, and when I do this, I'm going to bring my needle through the loop here to make a knot. And pull it tight. That then finishes off that piece of thread. So I can cut that off like that, and it's secure. Then just take another piece of thread, again split it into 3 strands and carry on with the rest. Okay, so now you should have your lettering fully finished in backstitch. So one important tip is to try and keep the back of your work as neat as possible. Now don't worry if this isn't perfect, mine was an absolute mess when I first started embroidering, but the neater you can get it, the better, just because it helps when you've finished your piece. It prevents many threads from showing through the back of your fabric if you try and keep the back of your work nice and neat and tidy. The easiest way to do this is try not to travel across your work too much, so try to stay in one direction and try not to jump from here over to here and back again. So once we've done the back stitch, for any dots on top of the letters, there's 2 options. You can either just do a dash like so, and that will be fine for a dot, or you can do a French knot. So this is one of the trickiest stitches, so don't worry if you don't get this right first time. Like I say, you can always just do a little dash instead. So to do a French knot, we're going to come up through the back of the fabric and pull our thread all the way through. So I'm going to take my thread over my needle, wrap it around once and wrap it around twice, and then going to take my needle back into my thread, but not through the same hole that I came up from, so just near it, and go down. You want to pull your thread nice and tight, like so, and then push your needle through. Hold this thread nice and tight on the left hand side. Pull your needle through, and you should end up with a French knot. These may take some practice, so you might want to practice just on a spare piece of fabric or on the outside of the fabric near a corner that's going to get thrown away at the end before doing this one, or like I say, you can just stick to doing a dash. So now we've got our lettering done in backstitch. You can just leave it like this if you like the look of it, however I prefer to do whipped backstitch, so there's one more step to this. So if you've got enough thread left over, you can carry on straight away with this, or you can finish off and tie it and start with a new piece of thread if you haven't got much left. So to do the whipped backstitch, we're going to come back up at the end of our letters here. And what we're going to do is thread our needle through the stitches, all from the same side. So here I'm going to go from the right to the left of this stitch, and I'm going to go under this stitch and pull my thread through. I'm then going to come back to the right hand side of the next stitch and back through to the left. So I'm not going through my fabric at all, I'm just going through my stitches. So from the right to the left again. Always make sure you go the same direction, otherwise it won't work. So from the right to the left and pull it through. to a place such as here, where the next stitch I'm going to go through is this one, that's quite a big jump. So you want to try and avoid making jumps like that because you're going to end up with a big line of thread jumping. So the easiest way to do this is to go back down into the back of your fabric and back up just before that next stitch you're supposed to go through, and then carry on. You'll need to do the same when you get to the top of the T, because you don't want to go from here under this stitch here, because you're going to end up with a line of thread going across there. So you go to the back of your fabric and back up where you're due to start again. So again, you're just going to finish off on the back by tying it up. And that completes your lettering. So you'll do this for the word serotonin on the serotonin piece, the happy place on the house, the Manchester on the Manchester B, and the RX on the pharmacy mortar and pestle. So I hope you've enjoyed learning this stitch for your lettering. There are plenty of other stitches you can use, it's just this one is so I would love to see your progress photos, how you've got on with your lettering. If you upload a picture to the Facebook group or onto Instagram, make sure you tag me at the Stitch Dispensary. If you're at Manchester University, also make sure to tag Manchester M Farm on Instagram, and also use the hashtag #SDStitchalong. If you are also a student on the pharmacy degree, then you can also upload your photos to the Slack group specifically for the Stitch Along. I hope you've enjoyed. I look forward to seeing all your pictures, and I shall see you tomorrow. Bye bye.